I understand you've got some evidence from science that's just amazing.
Well, there was a new study recently that came out a couple of weeks ago. I'm looking at an article here from January 17th. And the article is called "Desert Tortoises Can Hear Better Underwater." Uh-huh. Now imagine. Let's say you throw away all of your presuppositions.
Right.
Let's say you're an alien and you come down to Earth and you're like, oh, let's go. There's a desert. Let's go walk through the desert. And you come across a tortoise, and you're an alien, so you can do an on-the-spot analysis of the tortoise, and you discover that what these scientists have just discovered, this tortoise hears better underwater where there is no water. Okay. And let's say you've never heard of the theory of evolution.
Right.
You have no presuppositions whatsoever. You would have to look at that animal and go, wait a minute, that animal does not belong here.
Doesn't belong in the desert.
What's up with this? Right?
Yeah.
So the journal PLOS ONE, the atheist journal, they surmised that the findings shed light on the evolution of turtles, Carl.
Yeah.
Suggesting they all share an aquatic ancestor.
Right.
The researchers said, well, wait a minute. These desert tortoises, according to evolution, have been there hundreds of thousands, perhaps even millions of years. How is it that they can still hear much better? In fact, the conclusions of the evolutionists, they say that the tortoise's hearing hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
It still would function much better underwater. Now, as a person of knowledge of Scripture, I happen to know that these tortoises are there and they hear better underwater because of the exact reason that people with any reasoning skills should surmise without the presupposition of evolution, that is that they were created for another environment, but they migrated there or through some catastrophic event ended up there.
Uh-huh.
But they don't belong there.
Right.
And this science article goes on, and really it concluded two things for me. It concluded that the story of Noah's Ark has just gained a tremendous amount of credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it confirmed another thing for me. Evolution is not happening.
Right.
After hundreds of thousands or supposed conjured up millions of years, this animal should have shed and adapted and evolved into the climate that it's in.
Yeah.
Rather than remaining an aquatic animal living in a place where there's no water.
Yeah, that's a brilliant observation. You're absolutely right, because that's one of the tenets, that's one of the foundational propositions of evolution, is that living things adapt to their environment over time. And as you said, over hundreds of thousands or millions of years, certainly this turtle should have shed the ability to hear underwater. I mean, he's in the desert, for crying out loud.
Well, it gets even better than that, because this I picked up on this, and the same day I published an article and I created a video underlining my findings, because we own the science. The science is largely government funded. We own it, so we can take the scientific findings and chuck all of the presuppositions and the opinions that are put into it by the atheist groups. And so I did that. So I sort of took the science, made my own conclusions, and put it out there, and people loved it. But the explanation out of the atheist community, the evolutionist community, which is just, whether you're an atheist or not, you're just borrowing from the atheists if you embrace evolution.
Exactly.
The explanation was that the turtle did not need to jettison the better aquatic ability to hear underwater, because it heard well enough in the dry desert air that it did not need to evolve or shed the ability to hear better underwater. So I have a question.
Yeah.
Where's my tail?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
If I used to be a monkey with a tail, where's my tail?
Right.
If it's true that I used to have a tail, and that if you don't absolutely need to jettison your appendage, that you will keep it, then where's my tail? I have another question. Where are my gills?
Mm-hmm.
If at some point I was an animal that could both breathe underwater using gills to extract oxygen and breathe in the air using lungs to extract oxygen, if at some point they reached a point of equilibrium,
Right.
I should not, therefore, according to this theory,
Right.
the reason why desert tortoises still here best underwater is because they didn't need to shed, to drift away genetically that ability. If that's true, people should have gills and tails.
You're absolutely right. You've made absolutely brilliant and scientific and logical observations, because the evolution proposition says that human beings ultimately arrived here through this evolutionary chain, which included our ancient ancestors were fish. I'm just going to say what the evolution textbooks say,
right.
and that as they progressed into amphibians and then into reptiles, and then 3 branches of reptiles, and one of those became mammals, and of course we're the offshoot and the common ancestor of the chimpanzee. You're right. We should still have gills, because that would enable us to be land dwelling and water dwelling, and we should still have tails if they're going to define the desert turtle that way.
And so that was my refutation to their explanation for why desert turtles, and you did surmise that quite well, but it was brilliant. And these people, they came at me and said, well, look, why is it then that some people are born today with tails, and they have them lopped off at, like a Doberman Pinscher, they have their tails cut off.
Right.
People, those are not tails.
Thank you.
That is a genetic malformation.
Right.
It is a violation of the design.
Yeah.
That is your genetic structure going amok.
Right.
And it's not even a tail.
No.
It's a piece of flesh that is hanging off of your, what they call a tailbone. It's not actually a tailbone as much as it is a grounding structure for nerves, et cetera, et cetera.
The coccyx bone, yeah.
The coccyx bone, right. It's not a tailbone.
Right.
People never had tails. If they did, I would still have one.
Right. And I've even seen some evolution websites talk about how we don't even need the coccyx bone. Well, talk to a medical doctor about that. Because that bone is the bone to which the muscles are attached for your elimination system. So
right.
if that bone is crushed, talk to somebody who's had their coccyx bone crushed, or if it's removed, you're in a mess. What do you mean we don't need it? And as you said, it's not a tail. It's an actual part of your skeletal system, which is needed.
Exactly right. And it's no different than a monkey being born without a tail.
Right.
That is a genetic malformation. That is a violation of the information is passed down from generation to generation. It's the same information, but when the information becomes corrupt, you end up with people with tails, you end up with monkeys without tails, and it's a violation of the designed structure of people. That's why we don't have gills today, even though according to evolution postulation, you and I should be able to both live underwater and in the air if their explanation for the reason the desert tortoise still hears best underwater is true, which it is not.
Right. Perfect. Brilliant explanation.